Hello, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Banter, the podcast aimed at bringing you your dose of murder relaxation. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. What are you saying right now?
I'm saying, what's up, big head?
Oh.
To myself, because I think my head looks really big right now.
Gotcha, okay.
Whatever.
All right.
Yeah, see, it's a thing.
Oh, you were right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to True Crime Banter.
Hi.
You thought I was gonna do it. That mic is blocking your face in the picture. I don't like that. You're too pretty. Just in general.
I agree.
And also for your face to be blocked. But hello, everyone. Welcome to True Crime Banter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
I'm like 7 drinks in, but I'm good.
And
As
I am
always.
about 7 sips into my first drink, so
Catch up, big boy.
this will be a fun one. Today I want to start off, and I think I want to start every episode off with some comments from the listeners. And not just any random comments, maybe random ones.
Okay.
But today, and I'm going to make it easy for everybody listening, if they want their comment read, we're going to try to keep a consistent theme going on. So, on the last episode we did, the Anne-Marie Anastasi, you posted some photos of her on our Instagram.
Yeah.
And immediately, we got some comments on the
Yeah.
photos.
She's a striking woman.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, check us out at True Crime Banter. But I've got a couple comments pulled up here. 2 of them, one from Rosemary Elizabeth Griffin, and then a second one from the boss lady, I. And both of them, I'm bringing both of them up at the same time because I think they had very, very similar responses to the photos that you posted for Anne-Marie Anastasi. And Rosemary Elizabeth Griffin said, "This is the first thing on my feed. Nightmare fuel right here."
Nightmare fuel. That's what we aim for.
And then the boss lady said, "Holy shit, first pick on the home feed. She's what nightmares are made of." And then a red flag emoji.
So yeah, I guess we are getting a theme: nightmares. Like
Yes.
people are saying nightmare fuel,
And I think
these
that's
are what nightmares are made of.
Spot on, because
Yeah.
the first photo you
Yeah.
posted of Anne-Marie was nightmare inspiring.
Yeah.
So shout out to Rosemary Elizabeth Griffin and the boss lady. I
Yes.
think that's how it goes. Well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get into today's bit of banter.
Bit of banter.
A bit of banter. So I had something I was going to talk about before this, and I briefly brought it up with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, we're not talking about that.
Nope.
So we're not going to talk about that.
Yep.
But
It's one of those TMI things, everybody. Just
Yeah.
trust me, you would thank me. So,
yeah,
anyway.
it has nothing to do with anything that you guys probably care about. So
So now we pivot and we think of something
now
else.
we pivot to Jeffrey Bezos.
Okay.
Mr. Amazon
We have-
himself.
Listen, we have not gone over this, so I don't know what he's about to say. So I'm
No,
on your guys'
nothing
side
too
right
crazy. But word on the street is that Amazon is closing all of their brick and mortar stores and all of their bookstores that are still
Okay.
left, which, is what it is. Whatever, it makes sense. But I thought it was interesting because Amazon started out as a bookstore for the most part.
now. Okay.
That's kind of how they got their jump start. And here we are, almost 20 years later, and they are now closing
Did
all
it
of
say
their...
why?
No. Honestly,
No.
this was something I heard, 10 minutes ago.
They probably just don't get a lot of foot traffic, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah.
It's
No,
just
very
kind
much.
of a
So they're
waste of
they're
space.
closing all of their bookstores. I think, Barnes and Noble is the only one I can really think of, other than local bookstores.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them left.
Even when I'm in Barnes and Nobles, which is
Oh yeah, there's like 5
maybe
people
a
total.
handful of times.
4 of them
there's
being
really not that many people.
employees.
It's really closer to the like holiday season. People start buying books as gifts and stuff.
I just thought that was interesting. Yeah. And they're also apparently closing all of their, and I just found out about these stores, the 4-star Amazon stores.
Oh, right. You and I walked by one time.
There's one right next to my work, and I was like, what is that place? I kind of looked it up, and basically they sell the most popular, like, highly rated stuff in store. They're closing all of those, too, so
I wish they had, like, a clothes version, because I always see advertisements for, like, women's clothing that's really popular. That's
on
got,
Amazon?
Like, really good. Yeah, like people are like, oh, I love that. Like it's a super simple set joggers kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Sweatshirts, all kinds of stuff. I wish they had like. I think they would make so much money if they had like a female clothing Amazon store. If they had it at Amazon prices, almost like a TJ Maxx kind of thing. You know?
Okay.
I think they would make so much money.
Is it Amazon branded stuff too? Like Amazon branded clothing or like?
I mean, you buy it on Amazon. Is anything from Amazon branded?
No.
Right. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like,
even at the Amazon
Chinese
4-star
sweatshops,
stores.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
anyway,
maybe you and I, we can start buying out all these Amazon clothes and open our own boutique.
I mean, like anything else, it's going to be fueled by cash, money, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like they're just not making money off.
And how the turntables of it is
yes,
that
how the turntables.
Amazon pretty much put out of business all of these like mom and pop shops, the old school like brick and mortar, and here they are having to do it themselves. And I'm sure it has to do mostly with
going to
just
say
how
they're
much it
the
cost.
ones doing it to themselves versus Amazon doing it to other
Must
people.
be nice, Jeffrey. Anyways.
Oh, Jeffrey.
You're going to be taking the lead on this one.
I am. I don't love doing that because I kind of like being the sidekick and hearing stuff and drinking and not caring and not having to be responsible. But...
Well, at least you can still drink and not care.
True.
But
true.
You are going to have to do some talking tonight.
That's okay. And you don't, we discussed this a little bit ago, right? You don't know which one I'm doing really.
No, and honestly...
I said the name to you, but it didn't really ring a bell.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And I think you and I are similar in the fact that names, we've listened to so many different cases throughout the past, decade. It feels like that names don't pop out unless it was something crazy like Dennis Nielsen.
Right.
Which I bring up because you said this is similar to Dennis Nielsen.
Yeah, it's got some overlap.
But, yeah, it didn't ring a bell to me. So I'm excited. I'm not as intriguing as you are with the questions. So I'm just going to sit back, get crunk like it's 2007, and let you take the lead.
Okay. So this takes place in Aberdeen, Australia in the year 2000. It was just a normal day when policeman Scott Matthews gets a call from a man who said his employee, John Price, didn't show up to work where he worked at the mines. So when John didn't show up for work, his employer went to his house to check in on him, but he couldn't get an answer at the door, despite John's car being in the driveway. So Scott Matthews actually personally knew John. So Aberdeen was a really small town. So he knew him, so he decided, I'm going to go over and check on him. And he knew how weird it was for John to miss work because, like I said, he knew him personally, and John was known in his group of friends and family to be a really hard worker, showed up on time every day. So he was like, okay, this is really weird. So him and Graham Furlonger, who was a sergeant at the time, headed over to do a welfare check at John's home. So when they arrived, they went to knock on his front door, and immediately they noticed blood on the door jamb. So obviously... Not a good sign.
Well, sometimes.
You just didn't clean it up or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Graham decided to peek through the slot where they put the mail, right? He was like, okay, let me see if I can see anything.
I'm assuming the door was locked then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So all he could make out in the dark was what looked like, quote, a bunched up curtain hanging down from the ceiling. So they couldn't get a response. Of course, they're knocking and they're yelling and whatever. So they decided to try around the back, where they were able to get the door open. They were able to, bust it down.
Okay.
So upon entering, they were met with what they saw hanging when they had been at the front door. Because now they're on the opposite side of the hallway. So as the officer tried to make his way past the curtain, keep in mind it's still very dark, he used his left arm to push it aside, and immediately he felt a coldness touch him. He looked down at his arm and he saw blood, which startled him because he thought he had injured himself trying to get into the door. Because, like I said, they had to bust it down. So when they stepped back, they realized that what they thought was a curtain was actually a human pelt.
A human pelt.
So when I read that, I was like, you know what? I feel like the word pelt isn't used that often.
Yeah.
So I was like, if anybody out there doesn't know what pelt is, if you can, like, search it really quick. But
I'm visualizing, like, a cabin in Aspen, Colorado.
Yeah.
Of a bear on the ground.
That's pretty much exactly, and that's pretty much what I was going to say. Like, as an example, if you ever go anywhere.
Aspen.
It's a little less luxurious, and it's but yeah, if you ever go anywhere and there's like a prize, some kind of animal or something, and there's like its fur, usually you will find it kind of sprawled out because it has been cut, obviously, after the animal has been shot, hunted down, whatever.
Right.
They will keep the fur
and then
they
turn
will cut it in a
carpet.
way. Kind of, basically, they'll cut it in a way that almost looks like the whole thing.
Yes.
So it's not just the front or the back, it's like the whole thing. Yeah. So that's basically what they found, but a human version.
Human pelt.
Yes. So as they realized what they were looking at, they had to, like, compose themselves.
Yeah,
and
I would too.
I mean, you don't see this every day. And I saw everywhere, every article, that the people that worked on this case still today are haunted by this, as you would be 20-something years later.
You're not going to forget that.
No. And you can tell, like, in the documentaries and these videos that there's just something in their eyeballs that they're just like, this was just the worst day of my life kind of thing. And, of course, people like us, years after the fact, are like, that's so interesting. But being the person to be there with the smells and the sights, to touch it, to, like, it's got to be so freaky. So as they looked past this hanging pelt, they saw the actual torso of a man on the ground. It didn't have its head, and it didn't have its genitals. So, of course, by now, the severity of the situation has hit these two. But obviously, they have a job to do, so they gather themselves once again and continue the search in the home. At this point, they draw their guns because they don't know what in the world is in this house. They don't know what did this to this guy. They don't know who this is. This might not even be John. They were there to do a welfare check, right? It
could have been John that did it to this person.
Yeah, you just don't know. So they obviously draw their guns, and they're like, okay, now that they know that something happened, now we have to find who did this, or who did this to them, because this just looks like a hot mess.
I'm gonna guess it's not it's a person that did this, not
an alien,
not a vulture.
Hey, that's a different podcast where we talk about all kinds of things. Okay,
true crime
yes.
conspiracies.
They slowly made their way through the house, and they entered the kitchen, where they found just blood everywhere, blood smears on the walls, blood spatter. But also signs of, like, kind of a typical day, maybe a typical evening, where it looked like somebody had been making dinner, but then had been interrupted. So they found 2 plates set up with vegetables, meat, and potatoes. So as they took in these details, they continued their walk, obviously not very concerned with freaking dinner since there's a headless dude in the kitchen. So they slowly make their way upstairs, where they hear what sounds like snoring coming from one of the bedrooms.
Okay.
So upon entering, they found a woman passed out on the bed, snoring, and she was not able to be woken. So they're shaking her, and they're trying to get her attention, and nothing's happening. But she's alive. They can hear her breathing heavily. So officers pick her up and carry her outside to lay on the lawn, maybe get some fresh air, see if that'll do anything. They don't know how long she's been there. They don't know what happened to her. But looking at her, she didn't appear to be injured, but she did appear to be drugged or under the influence of something. Okay. So after finding a ton of pill bottles inside, they called for an ambulance for the woman who we now know as 49-year-old Katherine Knight, the longtime partner of John Price.
Okay. And by long time, so they've been dating then?
Yep.
All right.
Yep,
and
for about 5 years at this point.
I'm assuming already this is John's body, but maybe we'll...
As you would, right? Because it's his home.
And now we have Katherine drugged what sounds to me like it's attempted suicide.
Okay, detective.
Well,
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's what I would have said too, right? I mean, some things really
Which-
are just as simple as
Yeah.
they seem. Yeah.
now, backtracking a little bit, the whole trying to wake her up and they can't wake her up.
Yeah.
I don't know if this works for somebody that's like heavily drugged, but if people or anybody comes across somebody that is having, looks like they might have been drugged or some issue with them, I've heard like taking a needle into under their fingernail.
Oh, no,
I
no,
hear
no.
though that
No.
because that pain is so sensitive
Oh my
under
God.
that immediately awakes people. So if I'm just saying
I'm
that
awake
because
just
there
listening
are
to this.
there are
Oh my God.
actually I heard it on a true crime show that's what they had to use
Oh.
for a girl that was date raped, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
The only way they could get her to wake up, or they attempted by doing this like 4
Right.
times, and eventually it worked.
Oh my God.
So, yeah,
I feel like if you do anything extreme 4 times, it's probably gonna work. Like that just sounds like something from like Saw or something.
well, these people dragged this girl out
Ugh.
into the front lawn, so
Yeah, that's.
I'm talking
oh my
about
God.
Katherine.
No, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That just sounds fucking awful. Okay. Anyway, so a little bit about John before we get into this. John was described as someone who loved to have a good time. As if you listen to our episode on, I think it was, oh my gosh, the husband Todd. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Katrina. Yeah.
Katrina Smith, right? Okay, that episode we talked about Love Island, that show, right? So on that show, something they say when there's like a man's man comes in, he's a blokey bloke.
Okay,
He's a
yep,
blokey.
yep.
So that's kind of what John was.
That's like saying he's a man's man.
Yeah, he's like a blokey bloke, right? Okay,
all right.
so he'd love to drink and swear and hang out with the mates. That's kind of what he was. So when he meets Catherine, she fits in really well because she's kind of the same. But it's said that John is one of those people that doesn't matter what he did the night before, how messed up he got, he is there first thing
At
in the
work.
morning at work. He took
Okay.
his job very serious and he was very dependable, which is why when he didn't show up,
It was weird.
everyone took it serious. Yeah.
How often do we hear situations like this where it's like, if this was just a normal person that was missing work randomly, no, maybe not. But it's just like, it's always these people that, they were always at work every day.
Yeah.
So
But I mean, that kind of ends up working in their favor, right? Because then attention
no,
gets drawn a
definitely,
lot
exactly,
quicker.
yeah.
Versus somebody who's a little sketchy. Well, it's kind of when you hear about people who have left home or are runaways before, and then they don't come home for a couple days. There's no attention drawn
Yeah,
to it, but then by
because-
then it's too late.
Yep.
Yeah. Because
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of stories like this where, if they were just your average run of the day person, maybe they would have been behind the 8 ball just a little bit more to where they wouldn't be found
Right.
or discovered, I suppose.
Yeah. So Katherine and John had gotten together about 5 years earlier. You and I were kind of talking about this a little bit ago, where I told you they'd been together about 5 years at this point in 2000. So about 1995 is when they met. And John had been married once before, and Katherine had come from a string of failed relationships. I think she had been married once and then had like 3 or 4 like quote unquote serious relationships. Where she was just dating the one person, and then it just did not end well. It was always toxic.
And you said they're in their 40s at this point, 49 or something like that?
She was 49. I can't remember how old John was. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, that's
I
okay.
can
I'm
look
just trying
that
to
up.
visualize
But
it.
I know they were in the same age group. So, so like I said, when Catherine came along and they met up together, they fit in really well. Like, she was also kind of a blokey bloke. Like, she was, if you look at her, you can see she's kind of,
Tomboyish or?
yeah, plain Jane, didn't really wear too much makeup. She didn't have a problem hanging out with the loud, tough crowd. She was always swearing too. She loved hanging out in the pubs, kind of the same thing, where you work hard, you go to work, right, and then you play hard after, and you might be up all night with your friends, whatever. It seems like in the documentary that I watched, they had interviewed the guy who owned the main pub, because the Aberdeen was so small, there was only 2 pubs. So there was the top and the bottom pub. That's what the name was. So
Simple
top
enough.
pub, bottom pub, right. And they hung out at both, but the group that she ran in was known for like arguments and fights breaking out, and they were regulars. But it's kind of like it always subsided. It was what it was. Wherever they went, it was loud. And I mean, yeah. but that's probably half of his clientele, so you
Yeah.
can't really kick him out, right? So after they got together, it wasn't too long until cracks started to form, and John saw a different side of Katherine that was not too pretty.
Oh boy.
She was known to be super aggressive, highly strung, extremely confrontational, and just loved to pick fights about anything. She was known to also be extremely physically violent as well. She wasn't a small woman,
Okay.
but she definitely like went to violence pretty quick. So
Short
she
temper,
had,
short fuse.
yeah. So she,
Gotcha.
and a lot of it was stuff that she kind of made up herself. Like she started a lot of issues too. Not really
I was gonna
sure.
say, do we know if it is something where it is a short fuse, or is that just the only way that she knows how to deal with anything?
Right.
Because
I
you know,
think,
is
yeah.
it arguments that eventually leads into
Right.
violence, or
From
is
what
it
I
just
saw,
straight to-
it's everything. Like
Okay.
everything set her off. She kind of made stuff up in her head to seem like it wasn't what it was, and that's the whole thing. I mean, we'll kind of get more into that.
Yeah.
But something that she, I guess, practiced or took pretty serious was payback. Like, if you did her wrong, she was going to do you wrong times 1,000. Like, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
She's not going to take the time to find out if it was an accident or work through it. She was like, I'm getting back at you. Like, it doesn't matter what it was. So, as an example, in the documentary that I watched, one of John's friends said he didn't know if it was if John tried to leave her or if John had stayed out too late. It was one of the two because they kind of had a back and forth relationship.
Yeah.
But it was either one of those. And in order to get back at him, Katherine took a camcorder, which we'll find out she like really loved this camcorder. Like she used it for everything. So she took the camcorder and recorded a first aid kit that John had and then sent it to his boss because she thought he had stolen it from work. So she wanted to get him in trouble.
Oh.
So she sent his
okay.
boss this stolen first aid kit, right?
Weird.
So John's work took this stuff like really serious and fired him.
Oh.
So this
shit.
was her getting back at him. So luckily,
then.
I know.
Jesus.
I know, right? So luckily in this situation, John was able to prove that it had been expired. This first aid kit was expired, which is why he had taken it home because he knew it was just going to get tossed out.
Okay. All right.
So he took it home. But this just shows
But still.
exactly. But his boss didn't know that. He just
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
that he had stolen it.
So did they hire him back then?
Yes.
Okay.
So luckily he got his job back. So after this incident, John had managed to stay away from her for about 3 months. So this whole time it's been toxic back and forth, whatever. Right? They have these weird fights. She does shit like this where she gets him fired or whatever. And all of his friends and family are like, dude, you need to stay away from her.
I was
She's
gonna say,
psychotic.
as much as I love you, if you decided to like send in weird photos to like my boss, and
No, that's weird.
like,
I'll-
I'm gone.
Yeah, but also
You don't
in
gotta
this,
be gone. I'll just be gone.
Yeah, but also in our situation, of course, that's way different. It would have been out of the blue. For him, she's been doing this
Just
stuff
every
the
run
whole
of the mill,
time.
try to get me fired. Okay.
Yeah,
So he
it's
likes
been-
the thrill of
it's-
almost losing his job.
It's been this kind of stuff this whole time where she does crazy off the wall stuff like this. But I don't know if this is, I know this isn't talked about enough, where the cycle of abuse
Oh yeah, yeah.
is so
both.
manipulative and it's mental and emotional, but it's not always talked about from the male perspective,
Right.
which is what's obviously happening in this case.
Interesting enough, I just saw a quick like YouTube short on something similar to that where a guy was searching on his phone, my boyfriend hits me or something, and the Google search immediately comes up with like the abuse hotline number. But then when he Googles, or no, I'm sorry, when he searches my boyfriend hits me, it comes up with the hotline number to call for abuse. But when he searches my girlfriend just hit me or something, it doesn't. It's like a Google questions answer, like what should I do when my girlfriend hits me?
Oh my
Not like a
God.
hotline number.
So,
So
that's
there's
something to know.
Yeah.
That's something to note. I mean, hopefully someone hears that and does something about it.
yeah.
I
I thought it was like it
no,
is
that's
something.
actually really good to know.
Yeah.
I wonder if like you could probably write in about that or something.
Well, I mean, I saw it on YouTube, so
There's got to be something.
Google knows.
We'll
about
go
it.
back to that
It's
because
YouTube.
that's going to irritate me. I'll write something. Okay. Anyway, so, like I said, they end up back together after about 3 months against the advice of everybody in his whole life. All his friends are like, you can't bring her around the bar anymore. Like, we don't want to see her or whatever. So now he has to drink at the other bar with her. He's embarrassed. But this is
the bottom bar or the top bar?
I don't know. Whatever one he's at, he's going to the other one now. So
Okay. All right.
anyway, so after a little bit of time goes by, John decides he needs to end this once and for all. I'm sure they probably had another kind of fight. She freaked out, did something crazy, and he's like, okay, now this is the last straw, right? Which, if I have listened to so many things about this kind of stuff, toxic relationships, whatever it is. And something I hear from experts on these podcasts, and even just people like us quoting experts, is that right before the victim of an abusive relationship is going to leave is the most dangerous time.
Okay.
So that is usually when the person ends up being physically assaulted or killed. Something escalates to that point where the perpetrator is about to lose control and they do something crazy.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, because that is the I guess not climax of the
that's exactly what it
but that
is,
is where the most impactful thing is going to happen. It's going to end, and so that makes sense.
Yeah. So at this point, he's just like scared because she's so mentally unstable, and he has started a habit. At this point, he has started a habit of calling his friends after they have a fight or a confrontation because he wants a witness to what's been going on. He calls them and he's like, "Hey, just so you know, she chased me down the road, or she pinned me against the wall with a knife, or like something crazy."
Right, which is great because now there's multiple people who know about this.
Yeah, because some people, especially, I feel like a guy might be a little bit embarrassed that his girlfriend is.
Yeah, but when it gets to a certain point, it's
right. But right, what I'm saying is just in general, I just don't think you hear about that a lot. Is guys kind of being like, "Hey, just so you know," calling their dude friends, being like, "Just so you know,"
especially when you're a blokey bloke.
Right. I mean, kind of. I mean. Yeah,
we can
joke about that phrase, but a manly man.
It goes to show how intense this relationship is getting at that point.
So finally one day he called the cops and he wanted her out of his house because she has her own house not too far away, but she stays at his house all the time. So he called the cops and he's like, "You guys need to get her out of my home. She's psycho. She's scaring me. I don't know what she's going to do at any point during the day." And because she lived there so often or stayed over so often, the cops said that he needed a court order, even though it was his house. So he was kind of in this weird limbo where he couldn't really do anything about it. Obviously, our rules are different here in the States, where if you don't own the home, then you can go. Right. So at this point, he was really frustrated that nothing was being done, and also extremely scared of her too, because he didn't know what she was going to do next. So this whole time, Katherine is calling the cops a ton, trying to blame John for all of the things that are happening, stating that he's abusive and he's the one who's trying to like manipulate her.
Turning
and
it around on him.
Right, exactly, which typical abuser. So even though there was no evidence or anything like that, every time it was dismissed. And sometimes that happens, and I've heard of that too, where sometimes the abuser will try to, and the one who's being abused too, the victim will also, when it comes to a certain point where things get serious, where you want to press charges, they're like, "No, never mind." They don't want to do any harm to their abuser because they've been so brainwashed. They don't want to, you know what I mean? Yeah,
they almost think that it's almost over anyway, to where I'm just going to be able to escape it and it'll be done and over with.
Right. Yep. Or they don't want to create too, like, more chaos.
Well, it reminds me of, coincidentally, on How I Met Your Mother, there was the graduation goggles, where once you think you hate your high school days, your high school years, and then as soon as you're getting ready to graduate, that's okay. I'll explain to you.
Of course, because you remember every episode so well.
But as soon as you're getting ready to graduate, you realize, you know what, these last few years weren't so bad, and then it's similar instances when you're in a relationship you don't want to be in, where you're like, you know what, I think I'm gonna call it off, and then you're like, you look back and you're like, oh man, but what about all the good times we've had together?
Is this the one where Robin's dating Scooby or whatever? Scooter.
Nope, you're right.
Is it
Scooby?
Scooby?
It's Scooby.
Okay, yeah.
And then I could see.
Go check that episode out, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Just check the whole show out.
Whatever.
Yeah.
No, I get it though. Like where he's getting ready to
Yeah,
kind of
when
ending
right
things,
before
but
you leave, you think, well, maybe it's not that bad. Right.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. So this kind of leads us to a night when he really got scared. So one night, John woke to find Katherine standing over him, watching him as he slept at the foot of the bed.
Okay.
Totally normal.
As per usual.
Right. And her hands were behind her back. So he managed to get past her and run to a friend's house nearby, but he was scared shitless. He was convinced she had a knife behind her back, but
Okay, I was gonna ask, do we know what
he
was?
found
or
out
was
that she
standing there?
didn't. He found out that she didn't. I guess there was a mirror that was behind her when she was standing, and he didn't see anything. Like
Okay.
when he was running by, I guess he found out there was nothing there. I don't know, but obviously, if you wake up to find your spouse staring at you, I mean, if it was you, I would have some questions, but I wouldn't think you're trying to kill me.
Right.
So, but obviously her track record and their whole thing is he's
Yeah,
already
and
scared.
There's your sign. If you wake up and they're
Right.
staring at you and you're
Right.
thinking,
And your first thought is they're going to murder me.
Yep.
Of course, yeah.
Probably
And
shouldn't
you
be in
run
a
to your friend's
relationship.
house, yeah. So even with this incident, he continued contact with her against the police's advice. Anybody in law enforcement was like, dude, you got to stop. His friends and family were like, you can't do this anymore. We're sick of hearing this. I mean, I've had friends like that too, where I'm like, I can't hear about this anymore. Like, you're making the same stupid
Yep.
choices. I'm so sorry, but
only
like,
so long can I just sit here and
exactly.
feel bad
But
for
now
you.
the cops are telling you this too, you know.
Time to get some real
Right.
advice.
So, in a sad case of foreshadowing, John goes to work one day and confides in his boss that he's deathly afraid of Katherine. His boss and coworker said that they had never seen him like this in all the years that they had worked with him. And he told his boss that Katherine was going to kill him. It was only a matter of time. So, the day before his death, actually, John went to court to get the equivalent of a restraining order because she had not actually harmed him. The courts didn't pursue the matter,
Okay.
which of course frustrated and frightened him. In a sad and eerie twist of fate, John told his friends the night before his death, if you wake up and see my van outside in the morning, call the cops. She's done me in. So this now brings us back to the morning of the gruesome discovery. Obviously, if you guys couldn't tell, the victim, of course, is John Price.
Right.
So at this time, Katherine Knight is being held in the hospital while she recovers from what we find out is a drug overdose. So you were right. She did try to take her own life when they
Okay.
found her. She's also being held under the suspicion of murder as well. So now this kind of gets us into the investigation. So, of course, they find him, they find her, but you still have to do all the work to find out what actually happened.
Right,
You
yeah.
can find all the blood and you can find the skin and you can find all this stuff, but you still don't know how it happened, why it happened, all this
yeah.
stuff. So, this gives the cops time when she's in the hospital to start their investigation into what actually happened. So, analyzing the blood smears and the trails throughout the home, they actually find spatter on the walls, smears on the light switch, fingerprints and blood, and items all over the ground. And they were able to piece together that it had started in the bedroom, so most likely when he was asleep. Which I thought about this when I was... So there's a documentary, I'll find it after this in case you guys want to go watch it. But they were saying that it started when he was asleep, and I'm just thinking, like, do you not have a lock on the door? Like, if you're scared of this woman, you're going to bed.
Yeah, well, I
Obviously-
mean,
Like, I would pile stuff up in front of the door, or like, I don't know.
that just begs a question, though. Like, were they still together at the time of this
So
murder?
it seems so. I mean, I didn't see anything, you know? I mean, he had gotten a restraining order, but it wasn't working. You would think he would have changed the locks or something, but
Yeah.
this cycle of abuse where she keeps coming back, it's very easy to think that he let her back in that night and was like, well,
Yeah, that's
let's
what
work
I'm
on
thinking.
it.
Like, it's...
But if you're scared of her, it seems like you are most vulnerable when you're sleeping. If anything, at any point, I would take the most precaution at night.
Yeah, now, granted, a little insight into us as a couple. You're the most cautious person in the world when it comes to going to bed.
Yes.
Like, I'm ready to fall asleep whenever. I don't
Right.
care. You are like, when we sleep, I want you closer to the door. So if a murderer comes in, you can defend me first.
Yeah, or you can
And
get
you're like-
stabbed first.
Yeah,
It's not, I don't know
exactly.
if you'll be able to defend me. You'll probably still
True.
be asleep when you
Yeah.
get stabbed, but you will be the first victim.
Yeah,
and
you're
I will
like,
have time
make
to
sure
get
all
away.
the doors are locked. Obviously, that makes sense, but I mean, you know,
check them 3 or 4 times. That'd
Yeah.
be great. Check the windows,
Yeah.
make sure.
Yeah, and so you are thinking in that mindset of,
Yeah.
you know, if I'm, you're trying to be as cautious or as
And we
safe as
live in a
possible.
safe neighborhood, and we have a dog, and there's other people in the home, and I'm still like that. So
Yep.
in this case, maybe this guy's thinking I'm a blokey bloke.
Oh,
I'm like a
yeah.
big strong
I
guy.
mean-
If she tries to attack me, I'll be fine.
Yeah,
But
and so they don't
still.
know if she did try to break in or something, if she was over that night.
I don't think so.
I mean, it sounds like they were having dinner possibly
so.
because of the plates on the dinner
Okay,
table.
we'll get into that, but
Okay,
really,
all
really
right.
quick. Hold on. So when I'm watching this documentary, when I write this script like this, I don't put every single thing in there.
Right, yeah,
But one of the things that I did leave out was that when they were over that night, they did have sex.
Oh, okay.
So they did recover semen on a nightgown that she was wearing. So they think that was part of her plan. Was
Seduce
when they
him,
came
try to
over.
make everything
Yeah,
better.
maybe
Let's
relaxed,
talk. Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing, because we find out later this was definitely planned. So they probably had some intimate night, whatever, they hung out. So, like I said, they found semen on her nightgown. They definitely had sex that night.
Okay.
That was also something that was said too, is that they had a sexual relationship, and if anything, that was the only normal part of their whole thing, was that that's
Gotcha.
what kind of kept them together.
Well, he's a blokey bloke. And if you want to get into the bedroom, you gotta...
Okay. Anyway, so like I said, they surmise that this started in the bedroom because the blood patterns did appear smaller there. So that's where they think he was initially attacked. And then when he tried to flee, he had attempted to turn the lights, and that's where they found a bunch of blood smears. So it was almost like a little trail. So they were trying to kind of put together a story with this as they're walking through the house. So they find the smears on the light switch, and then as he kept running down the hallway, as he got towards the kitchen, these blood patterns appeared bigger, and they also appeared to be going down. So obviously he's getting fatigued, he's getting more injured as he's going along, so he's getting closer to the ground. Like
Okay, you're saying down like
yes.
elevation.
So they're right, exactly, yeah. So they think that he was being attacked the whole way down. So they even find blood on the screen door leading outside, showing that he almost made it
Trying to
outside. So police are certain that he would have died anyways, just due to the amount of blood that he had lost. So that's still super sad to think that he almost escaped, but probably still wouldn't have lived anyways, which, I mean, that's still really sad. Even if he got outside, he wouldn't have made it.
Yeah,
You know,
it is what
thinking
it is.
that if you found it almost on the door, it's like, oh, you know, you want to root for him, like, oh shit, he almost made it.
Yeah, I mean, it almost makes it better though. Like, not better,
Right.
you know, but it's not as, to me, it's not as sad knowing that it was gonna kill him anyways.
Yeah.
Because
It's still really sad though, because it's not a quick death. I mean, he's suffering
No.
this whole time.
Yeah.
He's getting stabbed more and more, and there's more blood. And of course, the whole time, I'm sure he's just thinking, shit, I knew this was going to happen.
Right,
He had
yeah,
told
yeah.
people, and so they were able to find out that he was stabbed 37 times. So Peter, I don't want to say it, Muscio, I'm not sure, but he's in forensics, and he had the terrible task of examining all of John's remains and trying to find out exactly what happened to him. So he surmised that John was fatally stabbed where they had found his body. So where they had found him decapitated, where they had found him skinned, where that's
okay.
because there was so much blood pooled underneath him, and there wasn't anything leading away from him. So there
So then
wasn't
at
any
least is
dragging
where he
marks. There
ended up
wasn't, right.
dying.
Yep. So, which makes sense because they said that they found him when they came around the back, right? They had run into the skin curtain
yeah,
that they had seen from the front. So he technically was kind of near the screen door when they came around the back, if that makes sense. You can kind of imagine this like long hallway where the front door and the back door are on the opposite side of this hallway.
right. So he
He
would have
made
been
it
more
to the
towards. You're saying the back
the
door?
back, right, which is where like the kitchen was, because when they came around back, they were greeted by the skin curtain, which they had seen from the front down the hallway. So anyway, I don't know if you can imagine that, but so like I said, where he laid is where he was decapitated, where he was skinned, and there was actually the forensics guy, Peter, he said that where they had shown him being decapitated in the spot where he laid, they actually showed, you can see a trail of blood droplets leading from the head to the
curtain.
stove.
Okay.
So they think that she carried the head by the hair, leaving drops
Okay.
all the way to the stove, just holding it in her hand, just probably down by her side,
Yeah.
making a little trail all the way to the stove. So that's where they found his head, in the pot, boiled with vegetables.
Okay.
Which is where I had told you
Dennis
this
Nielsen
kind of is like
plays in.
Dennis Nielsen, right?
All right.
Where this is the second case that I've chosen where there's been a pot, a cooking pot that has
With human remains.
contained human remains. I did
Yes.
not mean to purposely do that. It just ended up like
Yes,
that.
you
I was
did.
like, no, I really didn't. I was like, oh, okay, noticing a pattern here.
Huh.
So the examiners confirmed that John's gluteus maximus,
Okay.
so that's his butt muscle for anybody who doesn't know what that is, had been cut off and separated into 5 parts and baked in the oven and turned into quote-unquote steaks, basically. So if you remember back to the discovery of the scene, you'll recall me mentioning dinner had been prepared.
Yes.
And John's butt muscle was actually the meat on the plates.
Okay. So,
If you didn't already put that together, everybody.
2 plates. 1 person dead.
Yes.
Another one eating that person.
No, it hasn't. Nothing was consumed.
Okay. Planning to.
This, if anything, this was more of some weird fucked up art form
I
where she
am-
just wanted like a performance thing.
Yeah.
It really was
because-
for shock value. So in this case, nothing was consumed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is just a lot of work to go through. That kind of makes sense though, because like, I don't think, I mean, obviously when you're somebody like even Dennis Nielsen, there's got to be the first victim. And if she was this type of person that was into, cannibalism and eating humans, this is either the first time she's done it and she decided she didn't want to end up eating him and she was like, nope, I'm not into this. Or kind of what you're talking about. She's like, I'm going to make this something big and dramatic.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm going to let you continue because this is not where I was thinking this was going to be going.
Okay. So that's good, I guess. I didn't want you to see it coming. So, inspecting the dinner plates full of food, they find that the meals were actually untouched, but they do find a name tag attached to each plate. And both name tags belong to somebody that was related to John.
Okay.
So they kind of, once again, something I didn't put in here, but like they had put together that she really just wanted a shock value. It's really, she was toxic and she knew that his family hated her, and they just think that they didn't say who it was. They didn't say who the family members were.
But
I don't know
was
if he had
family
kids.
members.
Yeah, I don't know if it was his sister, his parents. I don't know. But it could have just been like, here, fuck you. These are for you. Here's John for you.
Yeah.
Like, kind of thing. I know it's fucked up, but that's kind of what they think that it was for.
Which I guess that, again, makes even more sense. If it's untouched, she's fucking crazy is what it sounds
right.
like.
If we didn't already know that, we just didn't, no one ever knew it would go to this extreme.
No, there's there is levels of crazy, and one, if you're going to kill somebody, you're a psycho.
Right.
But if you're going to take these next hours of cooking them up and skinning them into a skin curtain,
Right.
then you're next level psycho.
Right. So despite having so much overwhelming evidence, the team of investigators still had the huge task of processing everything, trying to find fingerprints. They have to be thorough to make sure that there aren't any unknown prints in blood or foreign hairs or anything, because when they get to court, that's something that the defense team can make, well, there was somebody else there, or, so you can't have anything that could lead you to think or show that it could have been anyone other than Katherine. So the forensics team had to, even in 2000, had to get anything they could. So, speaking of Katherine, at this point, Detective John Wells finally gets the chance to interview her about 5 days after the murder. She's finally feeling well enough. The doctors have been like, okay, she's fine now. So Katherine maintained that she didn't remember anything at all, but she did confess that she was the one that killed him.
Interesting. So,
Right.
I'm assuming she's still in the hospital at this point.
No, she actually was down at the police station.
Oh, okay.
So 5 days
All right.
in care, in critical care. I mean, she
Yeah.
almost died. So I guess she feels okay at this point.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask if she was at the hospital. Obviously, I feel like if you're being, evaluated, or I'm assuming under medical care, maybe with medication in you to help you get better, it'd be a little sketchy as an investigator to be trying to get answers out of someone in that condition.
Oh,
but if
right.
she is
No, she had to be cleared by
down,
doctor. Yeah. So
then,
she's
okay. All right.
yeah.
Well, sounds
Right.
cool to me. I mean, she did it.
Right. So, she stated that she did do it due to violence that she had experienced from past partners. And also, she basically blamed John as well, saying he was abusive. So she said she doesn't remember anything, but she did do it. And she did it because John basically pushed her. So.
It's almost sounding to me, it's almost making more sense because you say that, because we've talked about overkill in the past, like overkill killers, and if she is just mad at John for something he's done, like maybe she wouldn't go as far just to do this to him. Maybe she would just kill him and call it good.
Right.
But if this is something that she's relating to past relationships, so all of this anger and all of this, I guess, frustration towards all of her partners, she's taking it all out on one guy now. And so she's going way overboard than I think even if it was just one abusive partner, you would probably do. So
Yeah.
it's starting to make more sense a little bit, but again, it doesn't make any sense at all to cook someone up.
I mean, it's good timing that you said that because they actually interviewed her past partners to kind of get a feel for like how she was with them too, and maybe she wasn't always this crazy.
And what did they say?
Well, it just confirmed their beliefs that Katherine was actually the aggressor this entire time. So it wasn't just John.
Psycho. Okay.
Yeah, so she's
I
psycho
take
with
back
all of
everything
them.
I just said.
So her past 3 relationships had all had incidents of extreme violence, including one being stabbed, one being hit on the head with a frying pan, and the worst one, killing her boyfriend's puppy in revenge.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get into how she killed the dog and everything, but I wish they had gave me a warning on this documentary because I would have fast forwarded
Did they, like, that is signs.
No,
That's
of course.
a sign.
Yeah, no, of course.
Fucking psycho.
So I don't want to, like, get too into this, but, like, this is rural Australia.
Okay.
There's no really, like, hey,
Well,
let's
yeah,
get
you
mental
said there's
health
2 bars.
help or... Yeah, it's first of all, it's 2000, the year 2000, which is still better than like 1970s or something.
Yeah.
But still, you're in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
this place is so little.
Even going back to Dennis Nielsen, though, in the 70s and early 80s,
Yeah.
there are signs as a child that things weren't right with him.
Yeah.
And you always hear about this, how many serial killers have tendencies of killing animals as children and basically showing no emotion
and she was a
to
grown
it.
up when that happened.
But that's what I'm saying. If she's doing it as a grown up, like, that should be, hey, Mr. Policeman, did the boyfriend of the puppy
I'm not
report
sure.
it at all?
I'm
Like,
really not sure. It didn't really go into
right?
that.
I don't.
It said that she had a
blame them
really
for
hard
not
time
really-
finding people to date. She actually had to date people from outside Aberdeen because everyone in Aberdeen
Knew
knew about
about
her,
her.
that she was fucking psycho.
Well, they weren't wrong.
I know, right? Exactly. So something else that comes out about her, that she actually worked as a farmhand almost, and she worked there for a while, eventually working her way up to the meat packaging plant and honing her skills as a butcher. So it said that she's really good with a knife, which totally makes sense knowing what we know now. So not only was she good at it, but apparently she loved it, which became more apparent when searching her home after they found John. They found tons of dead animals, like taxidermy, everywhere. Like, her home was filled with weird, like, glass jars full of dead animals. Like I said, taxidermy. They weren't like rotting animals, but still fucking weird.
Yep.
And I mean, I've actually known a few like quote unquote normal people that are into taxidermy, but this house was like dirty and full of weird, morbid art. And
yeah,
there gets a point where you're like, I have some questions, which only makes you think like, did John ever go to her house? Did he ever see this? Did he ever have questions? You can also kind of write some of this off as being eccentric too. Like maybe she's just weird. She's just odd. I don't know.
Yeah, and it is. I'm trying to put myself into the time of the early.
I mean, it
2000s.
said also that her home was filled with shelves of horror movies and weird macabre movies, and which
so that would,
I mean isn't totally weird if
No.
we had that kind of stuff back then. If there was such thing as that kind of stuff, we would have now shelves full of Dateline and Forensic Files because we're into that stuff, and I don't think we're gonna murder anybody. So.
I'm gonna no comment on that. But
my lawyer has told me to plead no comment.
That is, it is. Again, like you're talking about, I know of a few people that have like cabins full of taxidermist stuff or taxidermy, and it's like usually that's what it is. It's people who hunt, or it's animals that they've actually shot themselves in order almost to like honor the fact that the life is gone. That's what they do. Yeah. It is weird. But again, if they're somebody that is eccentric or that is just the crazy lifestyle or interest that they have, you can't exactly point to that and say that's something to look into.
Right. Which maybe people kind of maybe felt the same about her being crazy. They're just like, well, that's just her. Nobody ever thought she would murder anybody. Right. They're like, well, that's Katherine.
Yeah, she's crazy.
She's weird and has dead animals at her house.
But that's the extent of it.
So after they started kind of getting this investigation and interrogating her about stuff, they find out a little bit more about what happened right before John actually got murdered.
Okay.
So she had actually gone to her daughter's house the evening before and given her camcorder to her daughter. So I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but like her camcorder was like the love of her life. Like she loved this thing.
Right.
So she would record weird stuff and just like, I don't know, like home videos of herself talking and stuff. But she just like really loved it, especially 2000. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean,
that somewhat
is a
technology.
Yeah, that's about the time where camcorders started becoming more affordable for the everyday person,
and nicer.
So being able to record your life. I mean, my dad had one for the entire time of me growing up.
Yeah.
But there was a point where
Shout
it wasn't.
Out to Ronnie B.
That's right. Yeah. There was a point though where it became more accessible, kind of like cell phones and smartphones right now. For the longest time,
rich people had them in their car.
Yeah, exactly. And now everybody has an iPhone. I mean, 12-year-olds have iPhones.
I know, seriously. Well, even younger. Yeah. So anyway, so she had, like I said, gone to her daughter's house and almost given the camcorder almost like a last will and testament kind of thing. Like, this is what you get kind of thing. Yeah. And even her daughter was like, this is weird.
What are you doing?
Right. So there's actually evidence that Katherine had left the home after she had murdered John. She actually like chilled there for a little bit, left, and she left at least once and returned her vehicle back to her house, which wasn't too far away. And then using John's debit card, she withdrew $500 two times. And that money has still never been found. They don't know where that $1,000 went. They don't know if she gave it to anybody. They never came forward. If she buried it or whatever. And I know it's only $1,000, so you think like, oh, whatever. But like, why?
Yeah. What was it for?
Yeah, and especially if maybe at this point you didn't know you were going to kill yourself yet. I don't know. But if you knew you were going to off yourself, why did you take out money?
It could be, again, one of those things where she was just trying to put on a show, and if she thought that she was going to be caught or discovered, then maybe she wanted to make them really work for their answers.
So when the day for court comes, despite admitting that she killed John, she enters a not guilty plea. But as the case proceeds, she seems to change her mind, and she actually asks to change it to guilty, but doesn't give a reason. So the judge wanted her to be examined by a psychiatrist because he wanted to make sure that she couldn't plead insanity, and so he had multiple psychiatrists examine her, and they deemed her sane but having a personality disorder, which I've listened to so many things now.
And I'm assuming she had a lawyer at this point.
Yes.
Throughout the trial.
Yep. So throughout the hearings, Katherine sat like pretty much emotionless. She didn't look at anybody, nothing, until towards the end when her true psycho showed and she started to act out on purpose. They said that she started screaming and shaking her body and yelling and making her head like swivel in all directions.
Linda Blair.
Yeah. But it didn't work or gain any sympathy. People were just like, okay, you're psycho. And then she was sentenced to life in prison.
Wow.
But Katherine Knight is the first woman in all of Australia to be sentenced to life with no chance of parole. And that's where she is today.
Okay.
And the judge on her case stated that he didn't eat meat for a very long time after this one.
Wow. I'm assuming that they were shown the photos.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Throughout the trial.
Many of
Obviously,
them. Many of the jurors had to run out, be sick. There had to be called recess a few times.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about how...
and it wasn't until they... Sorry to interrupt you really quick,
okay.
but it wasn't until they started showing the walkthrough video of the crime scene is when she started to do her little fake kind of thing. I think she wanted to distract from it and draw attention away from the video. She started doing the screaming thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that right there sounds like somebody who is a sociopath that is emotionless and doesn't have any true feelings about what they did or what happened until they're calculating when they should have those feelings.
Right.
And you can't really fake feelings like that.
Yep.
And so if you are, having like a flashback moment where you're in a state of something that you did in the past and you're freaking out about it, I don't think you're gonna do, animations that people are like, what is she doing?
Right.
Like, it would be more convincing, I suppose, than what you described.
Right.
At least from what I'm visualizing, at least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, she doesn't sound like the greatest lover.
Greatest anything. Greatest mom, greatest human anything. But she's currently incarcerated at the Clarence Correctional Center.
So she's still alive.
Yeah, which I looked up not too long before this because I was like, wow, I'd probably figure out if she's still alive.
Almost 70 then by now?
No, she would be, if she was 49 in 2000, then she'd be early 70s now.
Okay.
71, 72, somewhere in there.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Interesting. I wonder, has she said anything about the case at all since?
I didn't see anything. The last I looked up, I didn't see anything. She still, claims her innocence.
Yeah. That is something... I mean, hey, what she doesn't have anything that she could gain from being, claiming guilty at this point.
Right.
I mean, you're in there for life. There's not much else that she would gain from that. So
I know.
Weird.
Know.
And this really, it did remind me of Dennis Nielsen a lot. The way you started going into the detail. Now, did she explain at all why she skinned him and made the human pelt?
No, remember she said that she doesn't remember anything like that. She just knows that she did it. She doesn't know why she did. She
did it.
She blamed the abuse and whatever, but she never once talked about like anything of the meat of anything. And I mean, if you think about it, that's kind of something that if she didn't come up with it on her own, her lawyer would be like, listen, there's no way to prove that you didn't do this. Like, it had to have been you.
Yeah.
But you don't have to plead to everything. Because if you have any shot at all in court,
right, of being not
you can
guilty
at least
or
admit you did it.
A lighter sentence.
Yeah, there might be some kind of chance.
Huh.
I know. I don't know.
That's weird. She's
weird.
weird.
She's weird. That's a word. Yeah.
She is weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So,
all I've learned is when you've got a girlfriend or fiance or wife for that matter, and everybody in your life is telling you get the fuck away, including the police. You need to get the fuck out of there. And also for all of you watching and listening, if you're in a relationship and for any reason, even if it was a dream that you think could have been real, if you wake up to your partner standing over your bed and you immediately think they're gonna fucking kill you, you are in the wrong relationship.
True.
I hate to burst your
True.
bubble, but
I don't hate to burst your bubble. We might have just saved their life. So you're welcome.
you're welcome, world. Well, thank you. I like.
Yeah.
That is. Oh.
I know.
Kinda
I didn't
bone-chilling.
know it was that graphic. I knew that she did some messed up stuff to his body, but yeah, once I got into it, I'm like, oh, this is a lot like a one that we just did not too long ago. I'm going to try and stay away from the cannibalism just for a little bit, or like the whole like decapitating and cooking. And,
Yeah, and case-wise too. Like when you're telling me these stories, you should stay away from that as well.
Yeah. Anyway, just because it's been done and we'll find something a little bit funkier, we'll mix it up.
Yeah, a
We'll
little
come back to
different.
this maybe
Little
in
different.
10 more episodes. I'll retouch on something like this.
Good old Catherine. Good old cat. Katherina night. Well, I enjoyed that. I hope everybody else enjoyed it.
How does your stomach feel? You okay?
I'm a little hungry.
That's normal.
Not gonna
Totally normal.
lie. Never mind. I'm just not
Yeah,
gonna
thank
do
you. Thank you.
it. You always say I always take it a step too far. And
Yep.
I'm learning.
And you almost just
I'm
did.
learning
You
how
stopped
to
yourself
catch myself in those moments. And that was a moment.
4 years later. Anyway.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you for telling the story of Catherine Knight.
Thanks for
I hope
listening.
everybody enjoyed that. And yeah, if you did, make sure to you just wink at the camera. Okay. If anyone wants to see Christian wink at the camera, go on to YouTube. Hit the subscribe button because you know you love it. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at True Crime Banter. We just hit 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
That's
which,
cool.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this thing.
I don't,
we got
nobody
going
rain on
here.
my parade because I'm pretty stoked about it. So
Yeah.
if you have more than that, good for you. We'll catch up at some point, hopefully.
Fuck off, mate.
But yeah, just enjoy this small victory for now.
That's
so
right. And
thank
this is
you.
a small victory. Yeah. So if you guys enjoyed it, on Spotify, go ahead and give us a rating of 5 stars. Nothing less.
Thank
nothing
you.
more.
Yep.
Exactly 5 stars. And yeah, I guess that's it
it.
for episode 11.
That's a wrap.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. My name is Riley.
And I'm Christian.
And we will talk to you in the next one. Take care.